In this video, we are going to talk about the lists and keys in React. Lists are one of the most common things you will work with, whether it's rendering a to-do list, a product catalog, search results, or even navigation menus. And in React, there is a specific and efficient way to render them so that updates happen quickly and correctly. Well, first understand what lists are in React. Then we will talk about the keys, why they are so important, what makes to avoid, and finally we will build a small practical example together. Let's start with basics. In React, a list is simply an array of data that we map into JSX elements. The JavaScript.map function is perfect for this. Here is a simple example. Let's break this down line by line. First, we define our component list. Here we have an array called names with three strings: Alice, Bob, and Charlie. We return our JSX and start with an UL tag to make an unordered list. We call names.map. This means for every name in the names array return some JSX, and for each name we return a li tag element with name inside it. We close the map function and JSX expression. Then we close the UL tag. This works. But if you run this code in React, you will see a warning in the console. Each child in the list should have unique key prop. That warning leads us to the second part of today's lecture, that is keys. Keys are how React keeps track of each list item between renders. Imagine if you add, remove, or reorder items, React needs to know which item is which. So it can update only what's necessary. If keys are missing, React will still try to work it out, but it may render items inefficiently or even cause UI glitches. Here is a bad example of using keys. Here the key is just an array index. That's okay for static lists that never change order. But for dynamic lists where items can be inserted or removed, it can cause problems. React may think the wrong item is the same one just because the index matches, leading to incorrect updates. Here is a good example. Here each item has its own unique and stable ID. This means that even if the list order changes, React knows what exactly which item is which. Let's look at the full example that uses the good keys. First, we will define our product list component. Then we have array products with three objects. Each object has an ID and a name. We return JSX with an unordered list. Inside .map, for every product object, we return an list with the product's name. The key is set to product ID, which is unique and doesn't change unless the item itself changes. So a quick checklist for keys: always use a unique stable key for each item. Avoid using array indexes as keys for lists that can change order. Keys only need to be unique within their siblings, not across the whole app. Don't change keys unnecessarily. It forces React to throw away and recreate components which can lose state. Let's put this into practice with a small app, a to-do list, where we can add new items. Here is how this works. We import useState from the React so we can store and update the to-do list. We start with an initial array of two to-dos, each with an ID and a task. We create a function add to-do that makes a new to-do object. The ID is generated with the date.now, so it's unique, and the task text is new task. We update the state by taking the previous to-dos and adding the new one to the end. In JSX, we have a button that calls add to-do when clicked. Below that, we map over to-dos and return a list for each to-do, setting the key to todo.id and showing todo.task. Because our keys are stable and unique, React can add new item without re-rendering or messing up the existing list. Summarize: use .map to render arrays as JSX list. Always give each list item a unique stable key. Avoid using array indexes for keys if the list can change. Keep keys consistent between renders.